So a lot of us work and are constantly worrying about what we're getting paid. When I ask myself, why should minimum wage be raised, I picture how my life would be if I were making $7.25 an hour. As I give this speech, I hope you ask yourselves the same question and picture how it would affect you. There are many concerns about raising the minimum wage, which I will talk about later on, but I will first talk about one of my job experiences. Then I will talk about things that should be taken into consideration while focusing on this debate. According to Adam Ford, President Bush increased federal minimum wage to $7.25 the summer of 2009. My very first job when I was 16 was at a local grocery store in Rolla. I was getting paid the literal minimum wage. Luckily at this time, I didn't have to worry about a lot of the things I have to pay for now. I started this job during the summer, so I was able to work full-time. We were also very low on workers, so I was also just working a lot in general. My checks would usually average to about $200 to $300, and that was weekly at that. And not a lot of jobs do pay weekly. They usually go bi-weekly. I think personally this isn't a lot because, like I said, I picture how this would affect my life now. If you think about it, working at that wage, you're working 2 hours to make $14.50, which would only be able to pay for 2 to 3 items in a grocery store. I know I'm not the only one who has noticed prices raising in stores, from basic necessities to clothing. Why raise prices but leave the people with a minimum wage of $7.25? Not only do you have to worry about these basic necessities such as toilet paper, cleaning supplies, and so on, but you have to worry about bills when living on your own. Bills at times can become overwhelming, and working at the minimum wage and getting paid bi-weekly would not be, very easy to pay for all this stuff. As I said before, when I was working at this wage, my checks were only averaging to about $200 to maybe $350, and that was weekly. And so if you're adding all of this up, your bills are going to average to about, depending on how many you got, each bill is going to be between $100 to $200. So with those kind of checks, that's kind of leaving you only with a little bit to go spend at the store. And because how many times have a lot of us went to Walmart with a list of just things we need and ended up spending over $100? And that, like I said, that might just be the basic necessities. When going to the store for weekly shopping, you don't only have these items to worry about, but you have to think about the groceries. When I asked my family what they spent on a weekly trip for groceries and basic necessities, they responded with $200 to $400, and that's weekly. And so if you think about it, hold on, sorry, I lost my spot again. So if you think about it, how much trips you take to the store and how much you're averaging and spending, it's just really not adding up with the $7.25. The point I'm really trying to make is, like I said, all of it's not adding up, with especially prices rising. Another thing that has to be considered is transportation. To fill a car is about an average of $40 to $100, depending on the size of your gas tank. Any car owner knows that, if you're going to work, attending school and everything, that you have to fill your car at least once a week. So in my mind, this should be a bill itself. And also, people might be traveling, which will add on to their gas prices and all that. And then if they don't have a car, they're going to have to pay for a bus ticket or so on. And then another thing that should be taken into consideration when thinking about this topic is people with kids. They are not only providing for themselves, but they are providing for families. They have to make sure that not only themselves have these basic necessities, but their kids. Or if you're like me and you don't want kids, and you would prefer animals, you have to make sure you have all the supplies and pet food and your own needs plus your bills. Like I've said over and over again, imagine having to pay for all of this with a job that only pays $7.25. Some might argue just get a better paying job, which I'm sure a lot of us do have a better paying job. But if we're all looking for a job that pays more than what the minimum wage is, why leave the minimum wage at $7.25? Because there's only going to be a few people that'll actually work that, or if you're like me, you were starting off at like your first job or something. The federal minimum wage has been frozen for a decade, according to Adam Ford. He also stated workers earning that wage were well below the poverty level despite working full-time. One concern that might be argued is, will raising the minimum wage cause unemployment? If minimum wage was raised, then it would become a new normal. Also, it would also help a lot of people and families live more comfortably with everything they need. Everyone would overall be living more comfortably and be able to afford with all the rise in prices. Another thing that would be argued against minimum wage being raised is how it might cause more inflation in prices. Basically meaning that, prices are going to start going up again and like all that if we raise the minimum wage. But according to Jonathan Yao, firms can adjust by making non-cash benefits less generous, such as health insurance, paid leave, or holiday bonuses, and so on. This would allow people to have a better daily living life rather than getting these bonuses and everything during certain occasions. In conclusion, these are just a few pros and cons to raising the minimum wage, and I hope you took into consideration how this would affect your life if you were making it.
Thank you.